In the NFL, a true number one wide receiver can really change a team. I mean, a top receiver can totally transform an offense.
Yeah.
And that brings us to Tee Higgins and the Cincinnati Bengals.
Right.
He's a proven playmaker, no doubt,
Yep.
especially alongside Jamar Chase.
Oh, for sure.
But there are some big questions about his future in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
What could make him stay or go? And what happens to the Bengals if he leaves?
Well, to get a sense of Tee Higgins' situation, we got to look at his role in the Bengals offense.
Okay.
He's got impressive numbers. He's top-tier talent for sure. But he's also playing alongside Jamar Chase.
Right.
Who you could argue is their main receiver.
Yeah.
So it makes you wonder, does Higgins want to stay in Cincinnati as a solid number 2? Or does he want to be the top guy somewhere else?
It's a good question. And there's another thing to think about.
What's that?
Higgins missed a lot of this season because of a quad injury.
Right.
He's still done well, even missing games. But it does make you wonder how his performance and his health might be part of what he decides to do.
Yeah, when he's healthy, he's a total game changer.
Yeah.
Any team would be lucky to have him. His size, his ability to win those contested catches, his route running. He's got it all. But this injury, it does make you think about, will he be durable long term?
Right.
And that could affect his value.
Yeah, we can't forget about the elephant in the room here, his contract situation.
Yeah.
Last offseason, they couldn't agree on an extension. So Higgins is playing on the franchise tag.
Right.
Can you explain what that means for people who don't know all the details of NFL contracts?
Sure. The franchise tag, it's a way for a team to keep a really important player for one more year.
Right.
So they don't become a free agent.
Right.
It buys some time to work out a new deal or to see what the player's really worth.
Okay.
But it's expensive. It's
Yeah.
based on the average salaries of the top players at that position.
Okay.
So for Higgins this season, it means a big paycheck, but nothing like what he could get with a long-term deal.
And that leads to the Bengals' big financial problem. To use the franchise tag on him again next year would cost them over $26 million.
Yeah.
That's a huge part of their salary cap.
Right.
Especially because they've also got to think about a long-term contract for Jamar Chase.
Uh-huh.
So are we maybe looking at a situation where the Bengals just can't afford to keep both of their star receivers?
It's a tough spot for the Bengals, definitely. They've got these two amazing receivers, both deserving of big contracts.
Right.
But realistically, they might only be able to long-term.
Yeah.
And it's the salary cap. You know,
Yeah.
classic example of a team having to make hard choices with the cap.
And for Higgins, money's only one part of it. He said he wants to be the main focus of an offense, which makes sense when you see his talent and what he could do.
Right.
It's not just the paycheck, it's the opportunity.
Yeah.
It's finding the right place for his career.
He's already shown he can be a dominant receiver,
Yeah.
even sharing the spotlight with Chase. But it's totally natural for a player like him to want to be the number one option.
Right.
To have plays designed for him to see how good he can really be.
Now let's see what some of the experts are saying.
Okay.
Matt Bowen and Jeremy Fowler from ESPN
Yeah.
both weighed in on Higgins' situation.
Yeah.
And their views are pretty interesting.
Bowen's really high on Higgins, actually. He even called him the top free agent for 2025.
Oh.
He talks about Higgins' size and how he can win in different spots on the field and his potential as a true number one receiver.
Right.
Bowen believes Higgins could dominate in any offensive system, and Fowler, using sources close to the situation, says there's almost no chance Higgins stays in Cincinnati past 2020.
Wow.
He points to the Bengals' money problems and Higgins saying he wants a bigger role somewhere else.
Yeah.
So it seems like Higgins is probably leaving Cincinnati, at least according to some experts. It sure seems that way.
Yeah.
But you never know. In the NFL, free agency and contracts, those can be unpredictable.
Uh-huh.
So even though it looks like he's gone, it's not a sure thing yet. It'll be interesting to see what the Bengals do. They've got a young, talented team, but keeping it together means some tough choices financially.
For sure. The Bengals usually take care of their important players.
Yeah.
But it's possible they can't keep both Chase and Higgins,
Right.
not without giving up something else.
It's a balance, you know,
Okay.
losing a guy like Higgins now versus having more money later.
Right.
It might be tempting to keep both stars,
Uh-huh.
but then maybe they can't improve the offensive line or the defense.
So let's say Higgins does leave Cincinnati.
Okay.
Where could he end up? There's been a lot of talk about that, what teams would really want him.
A lot of teams could use a receiver like Higgins, teams with older receivers, or
Yeah.
teams that need one more piece to be a real contender.
Yeah.
The Pittsburgh Steelers, they've got a young quarterback with a lot of potential,
Uh-huh.
but they don't have a true number one receiver. Higgins would fit in perfectly there.
Steals would be interesting, but wouldn't that be too many receivers?
Yeah.
They've already got George Pickens, who's a good young player.
That's true. But 2 great receivers can be a huge advantage.
Oh, yeah.
It gives the quarterback more choices and makes it harder for the defense.
So losing Higgins would hurt the Bengals,
Yeah.
but it could also give them a chance to do something else with that money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They could improve their offensive line, which has had some problems.
Right.
Or they could make their defense better. It's all about using their resources in the best way.
Let's talk about how Higgins has played this season.
Okay.
He missed 3 games because of the quad injury.
Right.
But when he's been healthy, he's still been good.
Yeah, he's averaged over 68 receiving yards per game in the 5 games he's...
Wow.
And he's got 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
That's impressive, especially since he hasn't been 100%.
Right?
Shows you how talented he is, even when he's not fully healthy.
He can make a real difference, and if he stays healthy for the rest of the season, he could be a big part of the Bengals making the playoffs.
Having him back definitely makes their offense more dangerous. He gives Chase more opportunities, too.
How so?
Because defenses can't just focus on stopping one guy. They have to worry about both of them.
Right.
It's a true 1-2 punch.
Even if the Bengals do make the playoffs, their future isn't certain.
Yeah.
There are a lot of good teams in their division and in the AFC.
It's tough to get to the Super Bowl in the AFC, no question. The Bengals have shown they can compete with the best, but they'll need to make some good decisions in the offseason to build a team that can keep winning.
And that brings us back to the main question about Tee Higgins. Will he be with the Bengals long term, or will he be playing somewhere else next year?
That's the big question, and I don't know the answer.
Right.
But we've talked about his contract, his desire for a bigger role, and it seems more and more likely that he's going to leave.
It'll be interesting to see what happens. This whole situation shows that the NFL is a business. And sometimes teams have to make tough choices, even if it means losing a good player. So we've talked a lot about Tee Higgins and what's next for him with the Bengals.
Yeah, it's complicated.
There's so much to consider.
It comes down to what's important to Higgins and what the Bengals offer him.
Let's recap the important stuff for our listeners. We've got a super talented receiver in Tee Higgins.
Right.
He's shown he can play at a high level, even with Jamar Chase there.
He's a physical receiver, great hands. He can win those tough catches. He's had moments of being dominant.
Yeah.
And he could be a true #1 receiver in this.
He's playing on the franchise tag right now, which means the Bengals have some control.
Yeah.
But to use that tag again next year would cost them a ton.
It would. And with needing to give Jamar Chase a new contract,
Right.
it's tough to see them keeping both players for the long term.
So it seems like Higgins might be on a different team next season.
Possibly.
We've mentioned some teams that could be a good fit, but it's really up to him.
Yeah, he's got options.
He has to decide what's important to him. Does he want the most money? Does he want to be the main target?
Right.
Does he want to be on a winning team?
Those are all important things to think about, and whatever he decides, it's going to affect his career.
It'll be really interesting to watch and see what happens.
It will.
If you were Tee Higgins, what would be most important to you when making this decision?
Only he knows that for sure, but it's something we can all think about as we follow his career.
Goodbye, and see you in the next video.